The mangled block of steel sitting behind the scrapyard fence used to be my late father's 1969 Plymouth Barracuda Supersport. To anyone else, it now looks like worthless scrap metal. But to me, it was the last physical piece of my dad that still existed. While I was asleep, the HOA chairwoman, Marilyn Cross, ordered it removed from my driveway and crushed into a solid cube without my consent. She labeled it an abandoned hazard, signed the paperwork herself, and laughed when I confronted her about it. What Marilyn didn't realize was that she wasn't destroying an old junk car. She had just erased a rare collector prototype valued at $1.6 million. And because she bypassed state law to do it, she didn't just make a mistake, she destroyed her own life. This is exactly how it happened. And if you believe HOA abuse should have consequences, hit subscribe and join HOA Central, because stories like this happen more often than people think. My father passed away 2 years ago after a long illness. He wasn't a rich man, and he didn't leave behind investments or property portfolios. What he left me was his unfinished project car, something he had poured decades of patience, money, and love into. To the average neighbor, it looked awful. The paint was sunburnt, the engine didn't start, rust crept along the wheel wells, but my dad and I knew exactly what it was. That car wasn't ordinary. It was a 1969 Barracuda HEME prototype, one of a handful ever produced, and something my father had spent over 35 years tracking down, authenticating, and preserving. He always told me, "Don't let anyone rush you with things that matter." After he died, I covered the car with a heavy-duty tarp and parked it neatly in my driveway. I was waiting for parts and the right moment, emotionally and financially, to restore it properly. That's when Marilyn Cross decided it offended her personal sense of control. Marilyn was the HOA chairwoman of our gated community in Brookhaven Ridge, and she ruled the place like a dictator. She measured grass height, she photographed trash bins, she issued fines for curtains she didn't like. The car became her obsession. She claimed it lowered property values. She said it violated community aesthetics. I explained calmly more than once that it was covered, registered, and not leaking fluids. She didn't care. On a Thursday evening, Marilyn called an emergency HOA meeting. No notices were sent, no agenda was posted, I wasn't informed. During that meeting, she forced through a new rule, an emergency enforcement clause that allowed the HOA to immediately remove any non-operational vehicle without notice. Less than 8 hours later, she acted on it. I woke up early the next morning and walked outside, and my driveway was empty. The tarp was gone. The car was gone. All that remained were tire tracks carved into my lawn. At first, I panicked. I thought it had been stolen. I called the police immediately. Then I saw the notice taped to my front door. HOA letterhead. Cold wording. Vehicle removed under Enforcement Rule 11. Property restored. Signed, Marilyn Cross. I didn't even stop to think. I ran straight to the HOA office. Marilyn was sitting behind her desk, calmly drinking tea. When I demanded to know where my car was, she didn't even look at me. "It's gone, Daniel," she said. "You're welcome." I asked which impound lot it was taken to. I told her I'd pay any fee and retrieve it immediately. That's when she finally looked up and smiled. "Oh no," she said sweetly. "I didn't waste HOA funds on storage. I sent it to a recycler. It's already been processed." Crushed. I felt like the air left my lungs. I drove straight to the scrapyard hoping she was lying. The operator didn't say much. He just pointed to a fresh cube of compressed steel sitting near the press. I recognized the custom license plate frame my father installed decades ago. It was over. Later that day, I confronted Marilyn outside while she bragged to neighbors about cleaning up the street. I told her she destroyed private property and crossed a line. She laughed. "I'm the chairwoman. I enforce the rules," she said. "Read the bylaws." Then she added, "And you owe the HOA $60.50 for removal fees." I called the police again. They came. And once again, Marilyn played her part perfectly. She presented her freshly written rule. The officer sighed and told me it was a civil matter. As they left, Marilyn leaned toward me and whispered, "Next time, keep your driveway pretty." I went home furious and defeated. Then something didn't sit right. She worked too fast. A tow truck at 2:30 a.m. crushed before sunrise. I started digging. The towing company, Iron Hook Recovery, was owned by Marilyn's brother-in-law. HOA money was being funneled directly into her family's business. This wasn't enforcement, it was a racket. I stopped being sad and started reading. For 4 straight nights, I read state statutes, HOA limitations, and property law. That's when I found it. The clause she forgot about. Under the Antique Asset Preservation Statute, any vehicle over 30 years old is legally protected property. No HOA can remove or destroy it without a court order and 45 days written notice. I received none. That meant Marilyn didn't just violate HOA rules, she committed felony theft. But I needed proof of value. I contacted a certified automotive appraiser who had inspected the car 6 months earlier. When the report arrived, I stared at the screen in disbelief. The car wasn't a standard Barracuda. It was a 1969 Plymouth Barracuda HEME prototype, one of fewer than 10 known examples worldwide. Estimated auction value, $1.6 million. I printed everything, the appraisal, the statute, the payment receipts tying Marilyn to her relative's company. Then I waited. At the monthly HOA meeting, the room was packed. Marilyn stood on stage discussing flower beds and fines. When I walked in, she rolled her eyes. "If you're here about that wreck, you're out of order." I stepped up calmly. "I'm not here to complain," I said. "I'm here to invoice you." She laughed, until she read it. The room went silent as I explained everything. The appraisal, the law, the invalid insurance policy. She claimed the HOA would cover it. "It won't," I said. "I already spoke to them." Her hand started shaking. Then the doors opened. Because theft over $1,500 is a felony. The officers walked straight to the stage. "Marilyn Cross," one said, "you are under arrest for grand larceny, destruction of protected property, and financial fraud." They cuffed her in front of everyone. Today, Marilyn is serving 4 years in prison. Her assets were seized, her home was sold, her accounts were frozen. I recovered enough money to open a restoration garage in my father's name. She wanted to clean up the neighborhood. She did. Because the real trash is finally gone. Subscribe to HOA Central for more HOA justice.